welcome to another Workshop Wednesday brought to you by schoolofbookkeeping.com, where it is all about casual conversations for serious workflows. And we wanted to talk today. You may notice that there's some extra there's an extra guest here. Typically, we normally just have me and Rachel chatting about some of these things, but we have Shane from Method CRM joining us today. So, Shane, thank you so much for joining us today. What is your role at Method? Just so the folks might be
Uh,
wondering, who is
yeah,
Shane and why is he here?
yeah. Well, first of all, appreciate the invitation, Dan, and great conversation so far. I am a senior success manager here at Method. My role is really simple, just making sure that our clients and our potential clients are getting the very most out of their CRM. So think of me when it comes to general questions, training, onboarding. My role is all about just mutual success for all of our users.
Got it. And Rachel, you're a partner with Method, and I want to talk a little bit about first the impression of Method from the accounting community, right? So what and you said this to me multiple times. So talk about what you thought about Method as a CRM in general, because at Connect Fest you were standing there talking to Paul, the CEO.
Yeah, well, first of all, he's super smart. And so I've always been really, really impressed with the folks at Method. And I understand it to be the world's most customizable CRM. I think that's your intent. Yeah. For me, I'm not the best with customization. I'm more of a just give it to me like all put together because my mind doesn't really work that way. But I know that some people absolutely have to have customization. And so for that, I know it comes with all kinds of different things that you can sort of put together and even either yourself with no code platform, or you can have the folks at Method, you guys like build it for people. And that's one thing I know that Paul has explained that to me. And then it like totally went over my head and I'm like, So I actually have a subscription to it, like as a partner. I go in there every once in a while, and because I know that you can build customized things. I don't know much other than that. So
Yeah.
I would love for you to elaborate on that because I am not the right person to ask.
So Shane, in a nutshell, right? Like because I'm looking at your label there, Shane at Method CRM. What is Method in one sentence, right? Like what would you say Method is for somebody who doesn't know what Method is?
Method is a operations tool to help enhance and build upon your day-to-day workflows for QuickBooks and Xero customers. That's our bread and butter.
Oh, okay. So I was actually just going to add, is it meant just for accountants and bookkeepers, like with accounting software? And I guess it is. That's where I think I got a little confused because I thought it was meant to use with other things. Okay, well, in that case, I'm listening. I need to know more.
I
Right.
would
So
highlight on that and say our top verticals would be manufacturing, wholesale, field services, followed by IT and service professionals like yourselves, because those three primary verticals really fall in line with our stock system. Our stock system is built to support those three verticals without any customizations, and the customizations are just there to fine tune to cover the non-negotiables that are unique to our users.
yeah.
That's cool because I deal with
So,
manufacturing. So yeah.
so the whole reason that I wanted Shane to come on here and talk about it is because at Intuit Connect, I had a client emergency, right?
You
So,
did.
what had happened? So let me just kind of set the stage here. I had a client that I was helping transition from QuickBooks on desktop enterprise. Actually, Rachel, this was the customer you sent me.
Yeah, this is a referral from me. And
Yeah.
Dan is an expert converter. people out there, send it to him.
So, so we had talked, and he was thinking, the whole thing is the pricing issue of QuickBooks Enterprise, right? So, in order to get the most out of QuickBooks Enterprise, these days, cloud hosting is the way to go, and that way you can have this hybrid thing, but it's very expensive, right? To have a desktop software that's hosted in the cloud so that you can have anywhere access, this hybrid model of desktop functionality and QuickBooks or online anywhere access like QuickBooks Online offers, right? So he had come and say, "Is it time, to move over?" And typically, what I do in those types of situations, because I don't know and I'm not intimate with the business to know their workflows, like somebody like you, Rachel, who would, maybe you're already doing monthly bookkeeping for them, the functions that they're using. So you can say, well, you're using inventory and that's going to have this, challenge when you move over, or you could have those conversations, right? So normally what I do is I'll do a trial conversion into just a 30-day trial of QuickBooks Online. I'll invite the customer to them, and then they can use that as a sandbox to really understand their workflows and how the data came over, right? Well, unfortunately, this didn't happen, right? I mean, this didn't happen for this customer. I did the trial conversion and I, invited them to that. But what happened was they were using a custom column on their invoices inside of QuickBooks for one customer, right? So, and that one customer is 50% of their revenue.
You mean, and they were doing that inside of desktop?
Right. They were using that inside of desktop, right? So as we then later discovered after he already went live inside of QuickBooks Online, there's no thing as a custom column on an invoice, right? There's custom fields in QuickBooks Online. And those custom fields can be added to those invoices, but it can't be added on the line item level, right? So thus, at the last day of Intuit Connect, I was going around the exhibit hall. Any break that I had, I was cracking open my laptop, trying to find a solution for them to stay in QuickBooks Online, because they've been using it now for a month, right? And considering abandoning QuickBooks Online.
Oh, they were? I didn't realize that was
because, or some kind of hybrid of, well, we'll just invoice this person out of desktop. And then have to re-enter that information into QuickBooks Online. It's like, this is not a workable solution, even though it's a deal breaker, right? At this point, right? So I was going around the exhibit floor saying, hey, can you do this? I was asking, anybody that would listen. I talked to Intuit because, of course, Intuit was there, and they were saying, well, no, right? They got to wait until everybody's on the new invoice experience before they add new features into the invoice, which has not happened yet. So that's not a wait and see for this customer who's now right. And so, I tried other applications like Invoice Sherpa, FreshBooks, because people were giving me all these sorts of suggestions. And like Invoice Sherpa doesn't allow the customization, but in order to the volume of invoices, it would have been twice as much more expensive for this solution, right, than their QuickBooks Online Advanced subscription, right? So, like, how can that be the solution when it doesn't even do what I asked of them, what I needed it to do? So I had tried all these trials, and now, of course, they're expiring. And someone, I can't remember who said, it's like, well, what about Method?
Me?
Like,
didn't I say that? I think it was me. I'm just going to take the credit.
Okay, well, we'll say it's you. And the challenge is, like, I knew of Method from my time at QuickBooks, right? And I was kind of like, I'm not quite sure exactly what it is, right? And because it has that whole CRM at the end of it,
Yeah, that threw me off too.
it
Yeah.
was is what threw me off, right? So I'm like, okay, this looks pretty interesting. So I set up a trial. I connected it to my own dummy company to see if this was even possible. And it was like a Pandora's box when when I started playing around in it. I'm like, holy smokes! Uh, this is it just sits on top of QuickBooks, right? And it has the synchronization between QuickBooks and Method is phenomenal, because it just takes QuickBooks to that next level. And Shane
Oh
and I
God.
were
Yeah, I
talking
have to do it now.
Shane and I were talking about it's like a performance enhancing drug, for
Oh.
QuickBooks.
Okay, well, you
Right?
know what though? I didn't realize that you couldn't create custom columns, and because there's so many things to know, right? That I thought custom fields meant you could add in another column, because we're doing the same thing right now with the conversion into a trial, tinkering around with it, making sure it
Mhm.
can work. And Dan, yesterday with that
Yeah.
client, we
Yeah.
were looking exactly at that. I need to add another column because they have a need for it.
Yeah.
And so I said, put a pin in it. I will figure it out. We're going to do this. We're going
Right.
to do this 100%.
So and this is an interesting point, right? So in QuickBooks Desktop, and this is just a nuance of QuickBooks Desktop, is that QuickBooks Desktop has custom fields on customers, vendors, employees, and items,
Mhm.
right? The items custom field is what does not exist in QuickBooks Online, right? And the reason that's important is that those item custom fields in QuickBooks Desktop then allows you to add those custom fields on a line item
Line
detail
item. Yeah.
inside of your invoices or purchase
Yeah.
orders or whatever it is that you put items on inside of QuickBooks Desktop. So is that that function is severed, right, when you move
Who
from
decided to
desktop.
take that away?
Right. Well, it didn't exist at all, right? So custom fields, that were definable by you as a user inside of QuickBooks Online didn't happen until QuickBooks Online Advanced,
Oh,
right?
okay. Okay.
So there were custom fields,
Yeah.
and those custom fields could be utilized on transactions, but they couldn't be assigned to a customer or anything like that, right? So it was kind of like, the kiddie pool of custom fields. There's no depth in this water at all. You're
Mhm.
barely covering your ankles, when when you step in this pool. But Method, basically makes it like a diving tank. Uh,
That's
because
incredible.
the challenge, though, right, and the caveat to all of this is that any customizations that you do inside of Method that don't have a direct, apples to apples correlation are not synchronized back and forth,
Mm,
right, Shane? So I mean, that's kind of, the buyer beware, type of thing.
got
Totally get
When
it.
it.
it-
Yep,
So then like if you need to then send the invoices, they're getting sent from Method.
they should.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
All
we
right.
kind of
So
take a lot of priority in terms of communicating with your customers because we are a CRM. Relationship and communication is a big part of what we do. There's a lot of when it comes to the customer facing interface, we definitely feel like we have a lot to offer when it comes to estimates and invoices, whether they were created in Method or QuickBooks, it doesn't matter. We do have hopefully a much more personalizable interface to share those things with
right,
your actual customers.
But the QuickBooks things will come through like a payment link, right?
Of course,
exactly,
So you
of
can
course.
still use
yeah,
QuickBooks payments.
Just
exactly,
like
and
that
that's
custom column that QuickBooks does not allow you to do, we can very easily, but
Oh
there's
my
no
gosh, this
landing
opens up
spot
like a whole
for
world
that.
of possibility.
Yes.
I know. I can hear the clouds parting, for Rachel there. Uh, because it just sits, it essentially sits on top of QuickBooks, right? And anything that it can synchronize, it will, right? So if you create an invoice in Method, it shows up in QuickBooks, but any of those customizations that you did in Method don't flow through,
Right.
right? But if you're using Method as your invoicing portal, that's irrelevant, right? So you want the bookkeeping to be done
Yeah.
by QuickBooks,
Yeah.
and that will happen, right? So you essentially are not necessarily needing to invoice out of QuickBooks anymore. You can also, a little caveat for those of you that love QuickBooks payments like me,
Me too.
you can associate the QuickBooks payments as the payment gateway in Method.
Yeah, that's
Right.
great. And then it is recording to the ledger in QuickBooks, but customer facing on the Method side,
Yeah.
it can have anything.
Talk
Can
a
you
little
embed
bit.
videos and stuff in it and like make it really cool?
Yeah, we have a customer portal for us to, first of
That's
all,
what I
house
was.
a
Good
professional
segue.
So they can
customer
go in
portal.
and retrieve their invoices
That's right.
and wow.
Yeah, and that's just out of the box, no customizations. All of that history from QuickBooks on day one would technically be available for your customers to access, print copies of, maybe even pay off outstanding balances for
Yeah,
invoices.
yeah.
And eventually we can talk about signing contracts and signing and approving estimates to something completely custom, like sharing, documents and sharing videos on the customer portal that is dedicated and uniquely accessible for your clients.
Wow. Why did it take me so long to kind of really understand what's happening here?
Well, you needed someone like me to at least go, dive into that pool head first, because the water is so deep, right? And there really isn't any limit to what it is that you can do, as long as you can articulate it to somebody. If you need it to see on the screen, or you need it to see on the for the customer side, it can be customized to your liking, right? So for those people that are coming from desktop and familiar with the layout designer that is in QuickBooks Desktop, where you can, to the pixel, basically move a field or stretch it so that it shows up exactly where you want it. That's what Method can allow you
Yep.
to do, right? So the modern example, the area, inside of QuickBooks Online, you have, essentially, um, 5 design templates to choose from, and you have some
Yeah.
customizations that you can do. But it's a kiddie pool when it comes to customizing the way it looks, the colors, the fonts, those types of things are you have what you have to choose from. If you want more than that, it's so sorry, we
Yeah.
can't do that, right? So this is something that, uh, as we were, as Sheen and I were mentioning, it is an enhancement of what you already have, right? And because it synchronizes and lays over top of QuickBooks, and Sheen, it's desktop and
Desktop
online, right?
and
So it's not,
online.
and
What
zero, right?
about what about like an IMS, like an inventory, cloud inventory platform that's syncing with
Knew
QuickBooks?
you were going to ask that.
Yeah, because I have a client that we need invoice customization because we're actually invoicing from the IMS and then it's syncing to QuickBooks, but that isn't giving us the fields that we want.
So when it comes to IMS, that's one of the inventory is, the surprise between QuickBooks Desktop and online. Firstly, we like to identify what do you need out of IMS, because some customers use a inventory management software and they're using it very light. They're taking 10% of what they
Yeah.
need.
Yeah.
And we're not going to say that Method can replace a full-fledged inventory management tool, because there's, legit businesses out there working on this, like SOS Inventory, for example, with their real-time bi-directional sync at the items level. So the first
Yeah.
layer is,
Yeah.
what do you need from IMS.
In
And
this
maybe those
situation, we need it for production, but I
right,
understand what you're saying. In some situations, we actually could dump it and don't even really need
right,
it because you can get all the things you need, including maintaining your inventory levels if
right,
you're just buying and reselling stuff.
right,
In
right.
this situation, no, we're actually raw materials, creating
Assembly.
productions, keeping an inventory of raw materials and finished goods. So we need it.
Yeah, and that in that scenario, we have options of directly integrating. And chances are, whatever IMS software you're using today either has an API that we can work with or works with Zapier, whichever
Okay.
direction kind of works there. And now we can start talking about, hey, that's a non negotiable. We need to make this IMS software work, but we want to enhance our interface when it comes to the invoice. We like to have more customization capability, and maybe we want to manage our sales as part of this process because CRM is sales, right?
Yeah.
We certainly have the option of going with an API call. And if I was to verbalize that, it's really just determining at the baton pass. At some point in method, we trigger a call to your IMS to finish off the process. What your customers should see should still be method because we are a relationship manager, right? The portal is looking nice and branded and is something that is presenting your business well. And then there's a lot of assembly and manufacturing that needs to be done. So that API call goes right to the IMS to kind of initiate the actual production cycle independent of method. So two ways to look at that is if it's simple, let's talk about customizing, a an additional field on your items app because that's all you were looking to do. And if
Yeah.
it's a non-negotiable, let's talk integrations from there.
Oh, that's really cool. That's
And
such a great answer. And then you guys have the ability to build that on your end. So I could
We do.
hire you to build it.
Yeah, and
yeah,
we're fairly good at it, especially on the method side. But
Yeah.
if
Okay.
if it's on IMS, chances are they're gonna gel well with us because their API is meant to take in
Yeah.
orders,
Yeah.
and we are the order creator.
I know this
yeah,
one in particular would be fine. So
yeah. The and just so you're aware, Rachel, my partner manager at Method was talking about because they were at Intuit Connect. Sorry, Shane. Um,
okay.
that they started a conversation with Katana because of Intuit Connect. And they are looking at future roadmap, direct integration with something like an integration with Katana, which we've had on the
Mm.
workshop as well. So this is like serendipitous,
Yeah.
but all of this is kind of happening at the same time. Um, Shane, can you talk a little bit about one other thing that I wanted to mention before I got distracted? Um, just how, like, the pricing model of Method and how it all works. Because I like that when it comes to how it's priced as well.
Yeah, I want to first share that one of our goals is to offer ERP level of of operation support for QuickBook customers. And this a lot of times you outgrow your operations before you outgrow accounting. Accounting, a lot of businesses, even multi-million, $100 million business can technically execute in QuickBooks, but the operation side will get stretched very quickly. So what Method is looking to do is provide that ERP level of operational support, but keeping you using QuickBooks and naturally with a much smaller price tag. Our most popular package, if I was to give you we're very flexible, but if I was to present one number, we have a CRM Pro package that's most popular for high performing sales reps, management level employees. It's got all the main features of Method, and it's available at $49 per user per month. So hopefully that gives you a sense of we're one or two zeros less. And then when we talk about things like NetSuite and Salesforce, when it comes to full customizations, that could be a 50 to 100 grand, one
Yeah,
year,
it really
2 year
can.
process
And I feel like
easily.
you're totally speaking my language because I feel like I always have these conversations with people. Well, I just don't think that I can do that in QuickBooks and now I'm going to have to upgrade to something else and I always say actually that's not the case at all because a lot of the times we're not doing the things in QuickBooks. We're just treating it as a ledger. We're
Right.
doing the things elsewhere and syncing everything in. And I always am explaining that to people, and then they say, "Wow, that's so cool."
Mhm.
So
And we want to
I
systemize those, right? Because a lot of
yeah,
times they're
yeah,
asking you, Rachel, about, hey, how do I do more sales in QuickBooks? How do I manage jobs in Quick? Those are not accounting tasks. That's what
right,
we are specializing in. That
exactly,
allows us
yeah,
to extend the lifeline of QuickBook customers and obviously not jump up to that ERP level,
Yeah.
$100,000 level kind of onboarding
yeah. Well,
process.
and then like you don't have to convert your data into something else, and then you have all your stuff, all historical and nice in there, and you can continue with your expert accountants that are doing your books, and you don't have to, mess around with that.
Mhm.
I remember what I was going to say. Uh, one of the things, and this segues into what you guys were just talking about. One of the things that really impressed me about the whole onboarding experience of Method was immediately. I mean, you can use the Intuit login to log into and create your trial. Actually, I'm going to put a little um, QR code here. So if you want to check out Method and do a trial, you can just scan the QR code there, and I'm not behind it. Okay, um, but the whole onboarding process was super smooth, and I could use my Intuit login. So connecting to QuickBooks Online was great because I was already logged in to my to the login that I wanted to use to connect the two. That's the first thing that happens is connect it to your QuickBooks, and then the next thing is schedule a call with someone like Shane, right? And that is a thing to get you used to or get you familiar, so that because a lot of times what happens is they do drop you off at the deep end of the pool in these applications, and you don't know where to swim, right? So you've got a lifeguard like Shane, that can help you at least start navigating, throw you a little ring, right? I'm using these pool analogies here. um, Throw you a lifeline so that he can create a wish list of what do you really want to get out of it, and then the next thing that they include is a 1 hour customization session. And I sat in on this customization session with a client that I referred to Method, and they are amazing, right? The person there thinks holistically end to end, right? Like, so in this particular case with uh, this company, is they needed a new column on an invoice, but they're also using estimates. So they instinctively knew, okay, I've got to add this to the estimate as well, and I've got to tell it that when I convert an estimate to an invoice, that this column needs to come along for the ride. And when I send this invoice to the customer, I need to make sure that this column is visible to them. So they went in and did that customization all within that first hour of like, this is how it works. And then they
Yeah.
added some other things too, like a unit of measure, right? So like unit of measure, there is no such thing as that inside of QuickBooks Online. They wanted to see that on the invoices as well. You can, again, you can make it a free text field. You can make it a drop down. You can make it whatever it is that you can articulate in these customization sessions, as long as they understand what it is, what it is that you're trying to do, and also they think holistically as well, end to end. So like, because a lot of times when you're talking to somebody and say, "Hey, I want this," they solve that one
Yeah,
question, right?
exactly. But this is
All
like they
right,
understand how the things are connected in
right,
QuickBooks because everything is connected to something else in QuickBooks.
right. So
And for them to have
you,
that knowledge is really cool.
someone like you, Rachel, can, as long as you're there to maybe help articulate what it is that you want to have happen, you can leverage this team of customization experts, right, to help you get to the end, so you don't have to necessarily understand how to customize this screen. You can grow into that
Mhm.
and do that as a service offering. for yourself if you wanted to, or you could just leverage the customization team that Method
Yeah.
has already set in place. Shane, anything you wanted to add to that, or did
No,
I cover it all?
that is great. Yeah, we're here to be your hands, but we're also familiar, and we'll be first to make recommendations. And that's part of the expertise here you're getting from that team, is that they can execute your vision, and they will be the first ones to poke your vision full of holes, so that we can fortify that and give you a solution that is just perfect for your business, but also works ideally for Method in terms of the user experience. So yeah, right on that.
Hey,
Yeah.
Shane, can you, I mean, obviously it can do, customization on forms and things like that, but what are some of the other like key things that Method will do, like as a CRM?
Certainly. So we could go from as simple as a custom field or a custom column. And those custom columns will essentially fuel custom reports. We have lots of reports out of the box. But one that came up this morning is we do have a subtotal by items report right out of the box. But this customer wanted a subtotal by categories, right? They group their certain items into parts and services.
Oh
That is
yeah.
a very simple report for us to execute, because the fields are already there. We just have to customize an additional filter. And we can do things like automations. An estimate that's been pending for 7 days, and all you are going to do is send out a reminder email. We can just automate that for you based on
Oh,
those triggers.
okay.
So automations takes it up a notch. And then lastly, APIs as well. If there are non-negotiable third parties that we need to gel with, we have that option to customize API integrations directly with them. So to start very small, custom fields, um, to the point where we are using different triggers to automate, all the way to API.
I see. So it really is the most customizable, because you can really, like, if you've got any kind of like offbeat thing that you may need, that like, I know I can't do it in this thing or that thing,
Yeah.
but you can basically figure out a
Yeah.
way to do it.
We don't say no too often. It's just about how much, how long is really the question. And part of our experience is, if it's a low ROI request, we will be honest and let you know, and maybe present some, altering some differing options, so that we can maximize your experience and your investment inside Method. But we don't need to say no too often to custom
Oh,
requests.
that's really, really good though, because a lot of times people have it in their mind. Like, I had one of my clients reach out to me yesterday, and they wanted to split up an inventory and do something. And I was like, I don't think that's going to get what you need. I think, you're thinking, I see what you're thinking, but I don't think that's the right way to do it. You're going to spend 5 times as long, right? Because in their mind, they think, oh, I've figured out the problem and this is what I need to do. So to be able to have somebody understand what you're asking
Yep.
for, but then say, okay, actually, no, that's not going to give you the return that you're thinking. Let's maybe do that instead.
Right.
That is really valuable.
Well, that's
Yeah,
one
I
of the
mean,
most valuable things consultants
Yeah.
offer to clients, is that meshing of your business with my experience and my expertise, so that we can go on a path that's mutually successful.
Yeah. And I'm
yeah,
guessing you guys have probably like heard maybe some of these same asks over and over and
Have.
over
Yeah.
and over, and now really have streamlined
Yeah.
the best way to do it.
yeah. I mean, it addresses a lot of but QuickBooks Online doesn't do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
like, the people that are using sales orders in desktop, this out of the box gives you
Yep.
that option. Work orders, and the whole idea of you have an option of a web to web, what is it,
Web to lead. Web
web
to
to
lead.
lead, right? Like, so you can
Yeah.
create a web form on your website that integrates with Method and then pulls into your CRM, right? So I mean, like,
I want that.
it is
You know what? I
definitely.
think we need to rename Method's tagline to Method. It takes care of all the yeah buts.
Yep.
Right.
You know what? That's a quotable. I'm not promising we could change our tagline, but I want to share that one. That's a good
We'll
What
one.
tell
is what
Paul.
is what is
We'll tell
uh,
Paul.
uh
Paul, we came
what
up
is
with a better
Method's
name for you guys.
slogan? What is Method's slogan or
I don't
mission?
know if we have a slogan. You know what, our mission is certainly to support QuickBooks and Zero customers optimize their day to
I
day. Don't
feel
not
like
pro, you
it.
know,
I feel like it was
but yeah, but
the,
is kind of funny.
the
That's
most.
a catchy one.
Maybe they changed it, but I feel like at one point I remember reading some tagline of like
Mm,
the most customizable CRM or something with the
Something along those. Yeah,
customization. So
yeah.
we'll put it in the suggestion box.
All right. Well, Shane, I really appreciate you jumping on here, especially on such short notice.
My
And
pleasure.
Rachel, it looks like you've got some investigation to do about
Yeah, but you know,
how
the
this
thing
can
is
be.
I originally got Method when I first came to QuickBooks Online, like me, like a little over 5 years ago. I had shiny object syndrome. So I signed up for everything under the moon. And then I got very overwhelmed. I didn't realize, how to use any of this. Now, 5 years of experience later, and I've worked in a lot of other accounting softwares, but QuickBooks Online is totally different because it syncs to so many things, just a whole different product. And now with the experience that I have and really understanding the mechanics of QuickBooks Online, which I didn't really before, now it's much more meaningful to really understand what it can do and why. And so now I'm like, okay, I need to go back. I need it again.
And I don't think your journey is very foreign. I mean, it's different than a lot of others, right? Is that okay? I'll get into this whole bookkeeping thing, and then you realize, oh gosh, there's so much to know about QuickBooks. I got to focus
Yes.
all my attention about QuickBooks. Then now I can deal with those outliers that I've been kind of putting on the back burner to really get my understanding about what QuickBooks can do. Now I can take it to the next level with these IMS solutions or sales bridges, connectors, or and now an enhancement of QuickBooks Online with potentially
Exactly.
Method.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people do that. They think, I sort of came to the QuickBooks ecosphere with accounting knowledge. Like, I didn't know how to do accounting, but I mean, I've only used QuickBooks Desktop, and that was like 15 years ago. So, there's a lot to know. And so you're applying accounting knowledge to kind of figure out all the bookkeeping, what's the word I'm thinking of? Compliance. And then, the whole software thing is a whole different thing. Now, luckily, I love software and I love automation, and I loved diving in and learning all of that so much now that I'm kind of obsessed with it. But it's really these two worlds colliding, software and accounting. And so with the whole software side, it was really overwhelming, and something like this can really, really help.
Yeah. Shane, any final thoughts before we sign off today?
No, but really appreciate the conversation. And if Rachel, if you ever have any questions, you're more than welcome to use us as a resource. We're all here to help. Same thing with yourself, Dan. And yeah, if ever I can be a resource, my pleasure.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the Workshop Wednesday. Those that are tuning in, we appreciate you as well. Hopefully, we'll see you next time on the Workshop Wednesday. Have a great day, everyone.
Cheers.